It's Rome and we are here with the Playmass team. This is Carnival Visionaries, where we tell you all the stories of those people who create the magic behind the scenes. So we see all the carnival costumes, all of the great designs for carnival, be it Trinidad's carnival or any other carnival around the world. But then you have to think of who take out all these pictures for these costumes and making all them want to buy them. So we are here with one of the great photographers of the carnival industry, Jeffrey Charles. Welcome, Reggie.
Welcome, man. Thanks.
So, Jeffrey, everybody's seen these pictures, right? Tell me, first of all, which bands you have taken pictures for, be it in Trinidad's carnival or outside of TNT?
Well, for the year?
Tell me, generally.
Listen, to be honest, I can't even say. Like, it's so much. I do at least 2 bands for each country that has a carnival.
Wow.
At least 2. Like, for Miami, I just did about 8 bands out of the 11 or the yeah.
So then people will be thinking, all right, it's something like Miami. It's a big city that a lot of people know about.
Yeah.
Wouldn't Miami have photographers? Why come to Trinidad to do a photo shoot?
Well, you see, photography in itself is complicated, but when it comes to shooting feathers, there's a certain science that I have come up with that makes the feathers and the shiny parts of the gems not blow out the highlights, or I know how to shoot a costume. I have a science that I developed that just makes my costume pictures look a specific way. So even for a lot of bands or a lot of designers, when they decide, you know what, we can't deal with Jeffrey anymore, we're gonna go somewhere else.
Yeah, boy, the limits are so easy, boy.
Let's go somewhere else. They end up back by me regardless because of the style that I've adapted.
Okay, so each photographer has his own unique style in terms of how you all shoot.
Each photographer have their own style and their own lighting technique. But you see, finding the line between making something beautiful, something creative, and still remembering that you're selling a product is a very, very thin line, you know. And me as a creative dealing with other creatives, it's usually very difficult for me to bring forth what they want, you know. So they have to let me get a certain level of creative control, and I think a lot of other photographers would more want to give the client what they want, whereas I would give the client what I know is going to sell, not what they want.
Right.
And I'm not going to sit and explain to you why I'm giving you this. You have to come to me knowing that I know what I am doing.
To trust your judgment.
To trust my judgment, and I'm not going to go back and forth. If I tell you this is going to sell and this is going to work, you have to trust in my expertise and trust in my skill set.
So, is it the key to your work and the magnificence of your pictures? Is it on the shooting side of things, the lighting side of things, or is it the editing? That you would say is that's the way it's giving the oomph?
Well, the oomph comes from a little bit of all, right? I have to shoot for the edit, right? I have to, well, I don't know if you've looked at any of my images. I had to learn 3D rendering. I had to learn multiple different 3D softwares. I had to learn multiple different rendering software. I had to learn multiple different photo editing software. So it's not only about lighting, even though lighting is a key factor. It's a little bit of everything that I put together that makes it so amazing.
Ah, okay. So when you have to do for a photo shoot for a band, is it that they give you the concept in terms of putting together the props, all of that, or is it that you come together and say, well, okay, for this shoot we're going to do this and that, and you put it together?
Well, most of my clients trust me and they trust in my judgment. So if they say, okay, this is our theme, this is our theme, this is our theme, I do struggle with some themes, but most time they give me the freedom to make whatever decision I think is best for the selling of the costume. Because I mean, most masqueraders, yes, a lot of clients want to keep the set and everything that I'm building virtually within theme, but the reality of the situation is most people who are actually purchasing the costume don't really care about the theme, you know. So I try to keep it within theme, but if I'm struggling too much and it's not giving me the feeling that I want to get when I look at the image, then I would stray off theme just to make sure that I present the best possible picture within the time frame that I have.
Right. So a bit of background on Jeffrey and how I know him in the industry. I was telling him offset that I know this man in this industry for years. And where I really knew you from wasn't as a photographer first, was as a model.
Right, yeah.
He was a supermodel.
Right.
So to the point where I first saw you on, for those of you outside of Trinidad and Tobago looking at this, long ago there was, not so long ago, but there was a television show called Synergy Soca. It's not Synergy Soca, Synergy Supermodel.
Yeah.
And Jeffrey was there on the show, and that's where I saw you first as a supermodel.
Right.
How did that transition happen from being a model to being a photographer? Was it that you didn't like them photographers, or they were taking out your pictures?
No, to be honest, it didn't have anything to do with that. As a model, I didn't particularly like the industry. I didn't like the cutthroat kind of behavior that the industry sort of had. So I have other business other than photography as well, and I was doing that. And how I started photography, I stopped modeling like donkey years ago. And how I started photography was when my daughter was born. I went to inquire about a photo shoot, and I was like, my God, these prices are ridiculous to shoot some pictures of a child, so I could do this myself.
Yeah.
Like, then I looked at my first professional camera. It was a couple $1,000 US. I was like, okay, you know what? This is going to be a long-lasting thing. I'm going to be taking pictures of my daughter all the time, so I'll invest in it. Then I looked at a lens, $2,000 US for my first lens. I was like,
cool.
yeah,
that is the price of a lens?
Yeah, that's the price of a lens. That's the price of basically around a good quality lens, not necessarily amazing.
US?
Yeah, my first camera was $5,000 US.
Wow. Well, then now you see why the people are charging you when they were charging to take pictures of a child.
Right. So I firstly invested $7,000 US for me to just start taking pictures of my daughter.
Wow.
I was like, so it took me about a week or so to figure out the camera settings and figure out everything else. And then I realized that, bro, a good picture is not just about having an expensive camera, because I always feel like money could buy the best of everything, and then you just automatically become the best.
You
have
the best camera. You
have a bad camera, you're out here, you're better than everybody. You know? And then I realized it wasn't about that. So as I started paying a little more attention, I started investing a little more time into the craft and into the knowledge and into Photoshop and Lightroom and different things. I started. The more I invested, when I got to about $10,000 US in equipment, which wasn't very much, it could fit in probably a case like this. I said to myself, you know what? Maybe instead of taking all my business, well, not all my business money, but taking money from my business to buy equipment, maybe I should just do little random shoots of people and just use that money to buy the equipment, right? Because it's a hobby. I enjoy it. I love the editing process. And then how I got into Carnival and I got back into this industry that I left initially because I didn't want to deal with the people is Raul, Raul the designer, Raul Bonat, right? Yeah. He asked me to shoot one of his humor costumes one year. And I was like, well, yeah, Raul, we've been friends, I know you forever, so why not? It's fine, I have all the equipment, I have everything now. So yeah, let's do it. It was a favor to him. And from that one time, when I did that one image, a band from Barbados called Crave,
Crave.
Right, they contacted me after that, and they were like, well, you were recommended by Raul, whatever, we saw the pictures and we really need to shoot. No, I wasn't the only photographer that they hired. I think they hired 2 other photographers as well.
Right.
Who were way more expensive than me at the point. Some of who are still currently shooting. No, we won't go into any names. Right, so we won't go into any names. But I finished shooting, first day of shoot, and I got home, and they got all their pictures by the next morning.
Right.
Right?
Which is in the carnival space, in the photography space, is a great feat by itself. Because I know even in the party space, you have photographers that had to shoot something, and sometimes it take them a couple of days in terms of gathering everything and editing all of these pictures and sending back. So that is a feat in itself.
That is it, yeah. So I was always very excited to edit my pictures, to see the end result, to send them to my clients, to see the client's reaction and that kind of thing. Because as I said, it was always a hobby. It wasn't anything to make me a significant amount of money.
Right.
Right? When they compared it to what would be considered at the time veterans in the industry, my work at that point, even though I was only doing photography for 6 months, 7 months, it was incomparable. It stood out. It stood out. It was a lot better than the other people who were charging literally 7 and 8 times more than I was charging. And the rest is history.
Right.
And
so
then from there everything just grew and grew and grew, and more designers and more clients.
And then, well, now I heard you have your own studio.
Yeah, my studio, I have a 3,000 square foot studio. I had a smaller studio before, but now I have a 3,000 square foot studio. Now I have like almost $1 million in equipment.
And now I see people flying from all over the world with their bands to come to your studio to shoot.
Yeah, so I have models flying in weekly, clients flying in weekly, from all parts of the world, clients who are coming in and building their costumes in Trinidad, just so that I could shoot it. And that's how it goes.
So I would ask you, what is the most challenging or difficult thing as a photographer for you? Is it dealing with the people, or the editing, or the shooting, or the lighting, or what is it for you that you think is the most challenging?
You see, for me, a lot of people tend to say I am difficult. But it's not that I'm difficult, it's just that I don't like to explain the parameters that I need to work in, right? What's difficult for me is, editing is difficult. Rendering is extremely difficult. I know people who have gone to school for 5 years plus to learn to 3D render and that kind of stuff. Right? Compositing, putting it together is extremely difficult. Light painting, digital art, where a lot of the times I have to actually hand draw feathers back in. All those things are extremely difficult. So I really don't have the patience to sit down and do all of that and then deal with the back and forth with clients. So everything that I have to do is difficult. And if it wasn't difficult, then it would have a lot of other people that would be able to do it. So everything I do is difficult. There isn't one specific thing that's more difficult than the other. It's just what am I willing to invest the energy and time in, and what I'm not willing to invest the energy and time. And
how is it for you dealing with the different personalities? Because I know a lot of models have egos. How is that for you? Because models had to take direction from a photographer. Right.
Well, I am very straightforward. And it could be a little obscene at times, most times. But I like to keep my environment very fun, but I like them to understand that regardless of what, we are all getting paid to do a job, right? And this is what I want you to do, and this is what you're going to do. And if you cannot do what we have hired you to do, then leave. There's no space for ego in my studio after mine. I have the biggest ego, and it fills the entire space. So we have no...
Don't bring yours.
Don't bring yours. Leave yours outside.
But is there a specific shot that you would say is like your favorite shot to capture? I know some people love black and white. What is your specialty shot that you would say?
Well, truth be told, my specialty shot actually isn't carnival costumes on the whole. I like more artistic work where I could take my time and spend 1 or 2 days actually editing one photo to where I could really showcase my skill set. And as I said before, because of what I'm doing, I have lines that I have to work within. So because of those lines, I really don't really enjoy shooting costumes. You wouldn't believe. It's just that...
It paying the bills.
Not necessarily paying the bills. It's just that for some reason, God has given me the skill set. And I feel as though this is what I need to do.
Okay.
So I'm going to do it. I don't believe in doing things because of feeling. I believe in doing things because some of us are blessed and given the ability to do certain things. And I feel as though me, because of my life growing up, I'm hoping that I could, in the future, be an inspiration for other young men who have maybe finished school with no qualifications or whatever, or chasing whatever dream they have. I hopefully one day younger men or young men in general could look at me and say, yeah boy, this man come on, regardless of me saying I'm going to quit every week for the past 6 years because I didn't need the money because I have other business as well. He's still stuck at it, and he became the best even though he has no certificates, no qualifications, no anything. He did it, and I'm hoping that in the future that could, you know.
What advice, because we have a lot of young photographers who will be looking at you now,
yeah,
and they'll be looking up to you, and they want to find out how to get into this industry. What advice would you have for somebody who is now starting up?
Well, for people who want to get into this industry, I would say run.
What in jail is this?
Run and don't look back. Just run away. It is not what people think it is. It is extremely difficult. The only reason why I get away with being the way I am is because of my skill set. You know,
Right.
if it wasn't for my skill set, and I invest a lot of time, I don't listen to the radio, I don't watch TV. I barely do anything else with my time other than work.
Right.
So if you're willing to invest that amount of your life into it, and I have other friends who are designers as well, who we all complain, and they are doing feathers and gems
Right.
and whatever. And we would be speaking to each other, complaining for the entire week, right? And then if we get 2 days off, we're complaining about that too.
Right.
Because we're so used to it now. So if you're willing to invest that part of it, that amount of your life into it, then by all means, jump in. I mean, be in the right space, network with the right people, and believe in yourself, and the opportunities will come.
So now you mentioned that you have a daughter. So I'm assuming there's a lady at some point in your life.
Right.
You are a photographer.
Right.
Being a photographer, you're going to be exposed to supermodels,
Right.
people who are very pleasing to the eye.
Right.
How does that augur in terms of your relationship, being a photographer and having a relationship?
Well, from ever since me being a model, I'm used to being around plenty women. You know, and when I was younger, I was better looking. I had hair on the top of my head, I think, you know. I had, been around the block a couple of times, maybe.
Right.
So at first, it was a little bit, she was a little bit insecure about it. But now she's come to the realization that, you know what, just based on the way Jeffrey deals with everybody in that studio, nobody over there is going to like him. None of those girls is going to like him, regardless of what. So she ain't worried because she know them girls tolerate me. So she ain't worried about none of them liking me or me liking any of them, because once you come into that studio, that's it. You ain't gonna like me at all.
Well, from what I gather from this interview, and I'm sure the videos, the viewers would assume this as well, is that you're a man about your business.
Yeah.
In that you're putting the effort into your work.
Right.
And you're putting that skill set to work, and it shows in your
Right.
pictures. So you know somebody about the fun and games in the studio itself, and you really get down to business.
No, we do have a lot of fun because we have very, very long days. We have really sometimes 12 hours, 13 hours, 14 hours, even sometimes 16 hours.
Wow.
We're there shooting for 16 hours. So the energy could go down really, really quickly. So I try to keep it as fun as possible. So that's why I say we always kind of have it like a little lime, a little party. We'd always be drinking, always be liming, we'd always be old talking to kind of keep the energy, up. But at the same time, you know, I have to nip certain things in the bud so people would know that, yeah, we're liming and we're drinking.
But we come to do our job.
Yeah. And as I always say, I'm not cheap. So the job has to be done really, really well, regardless.
Right. So, Jeffrey, before you leave, I have you in the hot seat.
Right.
We're going to do a game called This or That.
Right.
You have to answer whatever is the first thing that comes to your mind. No set a long thought, nothing. First thing that comes to your mind, right? Because you're a photographer, so you see from a different eye as Danny Masquerader, or that me myself would see.
Yeah.
So in your pictures, think of these things. Feathers or gems? Now you're thinking too long. It's okay too.
Feathers.
Bold and vibrant colors or metallic tones?
Bold and vibrant colors.
Doubles or bacon shack?
Doubles. That's even a question.
Traditional mass or fantasy mass?
Fantasy mass.
Elaborate headpieces or dramatic shoulder pieces?
Dramatic shoulder pieces.
Shooting or editing?
None.
And let me just interject here. For those who now join in, which you would say is one piece of software that you would recommend for somebody who now starting off to learn?
For somebody who's now starting off, I could go through the list of software that I use on a daily basis.
Right.
Now, I don't only do photography, I do videography, VFX, and that kind of thing as well, right? So if you're now getting into photography, like base, I would suggest Lightroom, because Lightroom is intro level. You could adjust little colors, adjust little hue and saturation, boost a little vibrance or whatever. But I use from Lightroom, Photoshop, Premiere Pro, After Effects, Blender, Cinema 4D, Octane Render, Redshift, DaVinci Resolve, Studio. I do Maya. It's based on the workflow. I have to switch software and based on the timeline. Right.
So people might see one picture and then realize you went through a couple pieces of software.
People might watch one picture or one video or anything and think, okay, this picture, I could do this. I could just get a graphic artist to do it, which they've been doing.
Right.
But they wouldn't understand that I went from Blender to Cinema 4D and Octane Render, or maybe I went over to Unreal Engine and I had to composite in Photoshop and I had to do some digital painting and I had to, so there's a number of software that I work with. Sometimes to produce one picture, I go through like 5 or 6 different software just to produce one picture.
That's why you said it was difficult. It's not the easiest thing.
It's not the easiest thing to do.
Yeah. All right, so we're with Playmas. Playmas, for those of you who are now getting familiar with the brand, is the backbone when it comes to software behind a lot of the great bands that you love and you buy your costumes from when you're studying. But wait now, I'm going on our website. How am I buying this costume? How am I getting the distribution of this costume? Playmas is behind the scenes in many of the carnival bands around the world. So as we talk in tech, what software or what technology you feel would be beneficial in our carnival space?
Well, what would be beneficial, what I have adapted recently is AI, artificial intelligence, whereas before I would spend so many hours to build a theme, a color palette, and reference images from Pinterest and Google and different places. Now it could be done in 25 to 30 minutes using Midjourney or Dolly or one of those, where I could generate all my reference images before I start modeling in 3D. So now I think designers could now start using their themes and their concepts alongside AI to help them with their creative process.
All right, we're jumping back inside. Mass on the road or mass on stage?
Mass on the road.
Traditional Caribbean elements or fusion with other cultures?
Traditional
Caribbean
elements.
elements.
Yeah.
Flowing capes or feathered backpacks?
Feathered backpacks.
Frontline costumes or backline costumes?
Backline costumes.
Backline costumes,
Yeah,
yes.
boy.
You find it difficult to wang on the front line?
No, I can't take them big backpacks and I'm scratching you up when the people trying to pass on.
Same thing. I was now telling one of the new designers.
Bro, like, could you just take your pictures with your backpack and send it home?
From all the men out there for Carnival, we know what he's talking about. We just get real scratch up with them sort of thing.
Yeah, boy.
It's look good, eh?
Listen.
I mean, it's nice for you to put in terms of taking photography.
Of course. That's why I come out early. I take my pictures before it gets sweaty and before, you know.
Right.
And when you're done, take your pictures. Put away your backpack.
Put away your backpack.
Send your backpack away.
Put away your backpack. And finally, small island carnivals or Trinidad's carnival.
Ooh, what kind of bacchanal is this, Lord? I was still telling one.
All right. But if you're outside of Trinidad's carnival, I'm not sure if you experienced those other carnivals. Which one will jump out at you in terms of the experience for you? It may not be the best carnival outside of Trinidad's.
Right.
But you probably had a nice experience when you went.
Well, to be honest, to all the carnivals I've been to, like up the islands, I've always enjoyed Barbados, Cropover, right? Because I mean, Crave being the first band that you know brought me out, they always fly me over to
Barbados.
Barbados, you know, Cropover. Today's Cropover.
Yeah.
Usually every day, but I'm swamped at work.
Yeah.
Right. And I always have an amazing time. I have other bands that fly me out as well, but because of the love that we have for each other, because they love that the owners of that band and myself have for each other, like we're like family, I always seem to have
a good time at Cropover.
Not even a good time. Like I be forgetting half days and stuff. I started to look back at my phone at videos and be like, what? At what point were we doing that? Yeah, it was always be amazing.
I know that type of experience.
Yeah.
So Jeffrey, I want to thank you very much, bro.
Hey, no problem.
For joining us and the entire Playmass team. This is Carnival Visionaries, and you heard it from one of the best photographers in the industry, in the carnival space, and not only in the carnival space, but generally in the Caribbean space. The man is that good. Yeah, it's Rome signing off for Carnival Visionaries.